Can dolphins win the war in Ukraine for Russia? Welcome back to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and with me is my husband, Barrett McNabb. So today we are reporting on Daily Mail's article titled, Putin's Dolphin Warfare Squadron is washed away by storm that hit Crimea. So on Monday and Tuesday, a record storm hit Crimea. And do you care to tell us what happened there, Barrett?
Yeah, absolutely. So some maritime defensive fortifications were wiped away. We can see a before, and then we'll wait a couple of seconds and you can see the after effects of the storm. And along with these defensive fortifications to stop Ukrainian sea drones from blowing up ships of the Russian Navy, they also had these pens that had maritime dolphins that are used in warfare. And the United States has done this as well since the 1950s. Oftentimes they're used for two purposes. One, they can be used to lay mines where they put a mine on the snout of the dolphin. The dolphin will swim and then will attach these underwater explosives to naval ships so they can be detonated later. But also they're used in a defensive way in which they have dolphins swimming around the ports looking for enemy frogmen, whether it be Navy SEALs, whether it be Ukrainian special forces. So they could do two things. They can do two things. They can come back and report to their handlers that they've identified somebody in the water, but they can also do direct action. And here's a photograph of a dolphin that has been outfitted with an underwater gun that the dolphin can actually fire underwater and hit the intruder. Now they can do this, but also dolphins are well known to attack sharks and even divers by themselves just by ramming them with their snout.
I've seen some reports of some people getting attacked just swimming, but
right.
Yeah, the pictures with them being outfitted, it's like some BDM bondage type of leather thing going around.
Kind of reminds me of Hannibal Lecter as well.
Yeah. I laughed for probably 20 minutes when I first read this article because, when I think dolphins, I'm just old enough to remember the show Flipper being on the rerun circuit on Nick at Night. And so I got to see a little bit of it. And, when people talk about how smart dolphins are, they're usually video clips of them like playing with balls, doing SeaWorld kind of stuff. And
we actually swam with dolphins.
Yeah, in Hawaii, it was one of my favorite memories. So you have two dolphins, one under each foot, and I'm so clumsy that I was like, oh my God, I'm totally going to mess this up. But miraculously, they got me standing up, and it was just so cool. And
we'll put a couple pictures.
One was actually what's called a wolfin, and what that is there is a male false killer whale, and they're just a little bit bigger than a regular bottlenose dolphin, and the female is a bottlenose dolphin, and so that's just one of my favorite memories. So that's what I picture. I don't think I'm going to get someone killed.
Right. Well, I mean, it's amazing that what people do with animals as they try and train them for warfare purposes. One of the very first self-guided missiles was actually had a chicken. And sometimes was substituted with a pigeon inside, and it had a display that had crosshairs in it. And it was a game that they played with these birds that every time there was a silhouette of a ship, and they were able to hit left, right, up, and down in order to change the trajectory of their vantage point, the ship would stay in the center. As long as the ship was in the center and they clicked the right buttons, a food pellet would come out. And so they would train these birds in order to peck left, right, up, down, in order to keep objects in the center, and then they would get a food pellet. And then they would put them in rockets. And they would actually launch these, and the birds would guide themselves. Obviously, it's a one-way trip, but the birds would guide themselves, and they'd detonate these rockets. And this is one of the first examples of self-guided missiles. Having an animal doing it.
So it seems like the Ruthless podcast is accurate in that we are at war with the animal kingdom.
We are, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm always amazed when I see people like with pet chickens and they're like holding them, or they want to take them onto a plane or something. I'm like, those bastards are mean. I kind of grew up on a farm. My babysitter had, doves and chickens and cows and horses. And I would always just throw the feed in the chicken coop and run away, because my babysitter's son would taunt the chickens and come out just bloodied from being pecked and scratched and whatnot. So somewhat of a phobia of chickens. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
They're mean. And you just proved my point.
Yeah, exactly, because they can blow up ships. But yeah, so these dolphins, what they're being used for is the Ukrainian Special Forces has kind of upped their game and are doing maritime operations where they're being launched and then coming up on shore. And so Putin is wanting these dolphins to either kill or alert their handlers on what's going on. And it's amazing. And like I said earlier, the U.S. has had a program like this as well. I don't know exactly how active it is, but I do remember seeing photographs of this type of program in the 1950s. But the thing is, these are bred dolphins, so they're not wild dolphins.
Yeah, they were in captivity, so they are on the loose. So some people are concerned, whether or not they can survive out in the wild, but the conspiracy side of me goes, these are Putin's dolphins. You mean he trained them for warfare, but not how to survive?
Right. I think instinct is going to kick in. I think they're going to remain a pod, and you'll start seeing them. But I'm pretty sure they know how to use their sonar. They know how to, catch fish and things like that. I think they're going to be okay because, again, dolphins are really smart. But this is just one of those stories that just caught our eye, and we had to bring it to you. So thank you for watching this segment of Asthma's podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.